Have you ever watched someone struggle and felt that quiet pull inside you? The one that asks, should I step in? Even when it's not your responsibility, even when you're not sure it'll matter. Because sometimes the smallest moment, just a few dollars, a few words, can ripple into something far bigger than we ever expect. This is the story of a young mother named Lauren Whitaker and a stranger who almost walked away. Lauren Whitaker was 24 years old, and life had already asked more of her than most people her age. She lived in a small, one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, juggling part-time shifts at a diner while caring for her 3-month-old son Noah. If you met her in passing, you might not notice anything unusual. She dressed simply, spoke softly, and carried herself with a kind of quiet determination. But beneath that calm exterior was constant pressure, bills stacking up, sleep slipping away, and a lingering fear that she was always just one bad day away from everything falling apart. Being a single mother wasn't part of Lauren's plan. But plans don't always survive reality. Noah's father had left before the baby was even born, leaving behind apologies that faded faster than the promises that came with them. Since then, Lauren had been doing everything alone. Every bottle, every late night, every decision. And she was trying. She really was. Most days, she managed to hold it together. She budgeted carefully, stretched every dollar, skipped meals when she had to. Because no matter what, Noah came first. Always. But on this particular evening, things were different. Lauren stood in the checkout line of a small grocery store, gently rocking Noah in her arms as he fussed softly against her chest. Her eyes were tired. More than tired. The kind of exhaustion that builds over weeks, months, maybe longer. In her basket were just a few items: a loaf of bread, some eggs, and a canister of baby formula. That formula was the most important thing there, because Noah had just run out, and she didn't have a backup. As the line moved forward, Lauren reached into her pocket and pulled out a few crumpled bills and coins. She had counted it before leaving home. Twice. She knew exactly how much she had, and she knew it was going to be close. Behind her in line stood a man named David Reynolds. David was 36, dressed in business casual clothes, the kind of person you might assume had his life together. He worked as a regional sales manager for a mid-sized company, spent most of his days traveling between meetings, and lived alone in a quiet condo not too far away. To most people, David seemed fine. Stable job, steady routine. But what they didn't see was the silence he went home to every night. 2 years earlier, David had lost his wife, Emily, in a sudden car accident. One moment, life had been normal. The next, it wasn't. They had been trying for a child. They had talked about names, painted a spare bedroom, imagined a future that never came. After she was gone, David buried himself in work. Not because he wanted to, but because it was easier than sitting alone with the memories. And since then, he had learned to move through life quietly, keeping to himself, avoiding anything that reminded him too much of what he had lost. Like babies, like families, like moments that felt too close to the life he almost had. So when he noticed Lauren in front of him, her tired posture, the soft cries of the baby, he instinctively looked away, not out of indifference, but because it hurt. The line moved forward. Lauren stepped up to the register. The cashier scanned the items one by one. Beep, beep, beep. Lauren shifted Noah gently, trying to soothe him as his cries grew louder. Almost there, she whispered softly, more to herself than to him. The total appeared on the screen. Lauren froze. It was more than she expected. Not by much, but enough. Her fingers tightened slightly around the money in her hand as she counted it again, slower this time. Still short. Her heart started to race. Behind her, David noticed the hesitation, the silence, the way she didn't move. I'm sorry, Lauren said quietly to the cashier. Can you take the bread off? The cashier nodded and removed it. The total adjusted. Lauren counted again. Still not enough. Her voice cracked just slightly. Okay, the eggs too. David felt something shift inside him. He watched as the cashier removed the eggs. Now, only one item remained. The formula. Lauren swallowed hard, her eyes glistening as she counted the money one more time, as if hoping it would somehow change. It didn't. She looked down at Noah, who was now crying louder, his tiny face flushed with discomfort. And that's when it happened. The moment she didn't expect. The moment that broke her. I don't have enough, she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but it carried everything. Exhaustion, fear, helplessness. I'll just come back. She reached out as if to take the formula off the counter, and that's when David stepped forward. Wait. His voice was calm, steady. Lauren turned, startled. David hesitated for just a second, the old instinct to stay out of it pulling at him. But then he looked at the baby, at Lauren's trembling hands, and something deeper overrode everything else. I've got it, he said simply. Lauren blinked, confused. What? I'll cover it, he repeated, already reaching for his wallet. No, I can't let you. It's okay, he said gently. There was no pity in his tone, no expectation, just kindness. The cashier paused, glancing between them. Lauren shook her head slightly, overwhelmed. I don't even know you, she said, her voice breaking. David gave a small, almost sad smile. You don't have to. And before she could protest again, he handed his card to the cashier. The transaction went through. Just like that. Simple, quiet, done. Lauren stood there, frozen, as the cashier placed the formula into a bag and handed it to her. Her hands trembled as she took it. I thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to. You don't have to say anything, David interrupted softly. For a moment, they just stood there. Two strangers, connected by something neither of them had planned. And then Lauren did something unexpected. She didn't just walk away. Can I at least know your name? She asked. David hesitated. He wasn't used to this, to connection. But something about the moment felt different. David, he said. I'm Lauren, she replied. And this is Noah. David looked at the baby, really looked this time. And instead of pain, there was something else, something softer. Nice to meet you, Noah, he said quietly. The baby had stopped crying, just like that, as if the tension in the moment had lifted. Lauren let out a small, shaky laugh. He likes you, she said. David smiled. He hadn't smiled like that in a long time. That should have been the end of it. Just a kind moment between strangers. But sometimes life doesn't end the story there. A week later, David found himself back at the same store, same aisle, same routine. Except this time, he wasn't just thinking about groceries. He was thinking about that moment, about Lauren, about the way she looked like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders and still trying to stand. As he turned the corner toward the checkout, he saw her again. Same tired eyes, same quiet strength, but this time she saw him too. Her face lit up, not dramatically, not exaggerated, just relief. Hi, she said, walking over carefully. Hi, he replied. They stood there for a moment, both unsure of what came next. I wanted to thank you again, Lauren said. That night, I didn't know what I was going to do. David nodded. I'm glad I was there. She hesitated, then added, I actually brought something. From her bag, she pulled out a small envelope. It's not everything, she said quickly, but I wanted to start paying you back. David looked at the envelope, then back at her, and gently he shook his head. No, he said. But keep it, he insisted. For him. Lauren's eyes filled with tears again. This time, not from stress, from something else. Gratitude, relief, hope. And in that moment, something shifted again. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about being seen, about not being alone. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed more often at the store, outside, eventually, for coffee. Nothing forced, nothing complicated. Just two people sharing small moments. David started to feel something he hadn't in a long time: purpose. And Lauren, she started to feel something she thought she had lost: support, not dependence, not obligation, just someone who cared. And one evening, as they sat quietly in a small park while Noah slept in his stroller, Lauren looked at David and said something simple. "You didn't just help me that night." She said, "You changed something." David looked down, thoughtful. "You did too," he replied, "because sometimes kindness doesn't just lift someone else. It heals something in you, too." So if you've ever wondered whether a small ache, tea matters, it does. More than you think, because you never know who's standing right in front of you, holding on by just a thread. And you never know how far a single moment of kindness can go. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Someone out there might need this reminder today.